everyone. Welcome to another episode of Creative Belief. This podcast is a curated collection of conversations with creatives who believe that creativity can change the world. My name is Alex. I get to be one of the co-hosts on the show. I'm here with my buddy and my business partner, Josh. Josh, how's it going today, man?
It's going good, dude. I'm excited to jump into our conversation today. Excited about our guest and get rolling, man.
For sure. Yeah, we're super pumped. We tried to record this episode last week, ran into some technical issues. So we're super grateful to have the one and only, the legend, Chase Holden with us on the show. Chase is a self-described motorsports truther and a futurist. He's a member of Dirty Mo Media. He's also the co-host of the Speed Street podcast, a racing podcast with IndyCar driver Conor Daly. And he's the host of RACEBETS, NASCAR and IndyCar fantasy racing and betting podcast. Chase, bro, welcome to the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the intro, and I love the hoodie color palette we have going on today here.
Yeah,
it's very nice. Yeah, it's aesthetically pleasing. Like the eyes we're all doing well. We got some of the darker greens, the darker reds, the darker tans. It's nice.
Yep.
It's very nice. It's very uncoordinated, but it means we're
thanks for pointing that out. I didn't even recognize that, but man, it does look really good. We're so in sync for today. We're so ready, fired up and fired up, man. Hey, Chase, thank you so much for saying yes to being on here with us. We're super excited to have you. Super excited to get to know you a bit. But let's jump in, man. Let's start there. Tell us a little bit about your backstory, a little bit about you growing up, maybe what sparked creativity in you as a young kid, or and then what's kind of led you to where you're at now.
Yeah, it's a crazy story, man. So I'm an only child. I think that probably can say a lot. I was raised by the TV, had two blue collar parents. So that, they were working all the time, stayed at grandma's. So the TV was big. Imagination ran wild, kind of being the only kid, and, definitely having cousins and stuff that I would spend a lot of time with, like in the summers and stuff like that. It was just a lot of alone time. And I think that the older you get, the more I've realized that alone time, that space that you have when you're with yourself, especially when it comes to just kind of just like getting in your flow, is it's so important. And you don't even realize it. Like I didn't realize it for a long time, but yeah, that was probably like a big catalyst, I think, like at the core of like why I kind of got into what I was doing. But then how it kind of like funneled out, how that creativity filtered out is a whole different story. So obviously started in motorsports and NASCAR, doing Garage Guys podcast, just kind of like decided to start a podcast and go at it. I had an uncle of mine that worked in the movie industry, and he worked in the movie industry for years as kind of like a personal assistant to different actors like Richard Gere, Dennis Quaid, Nicolas Cage. And so for him, like, I guess like it's one of those things, like there's like an MGK lyric where it talks about like, how do you know that you can get there if nobody that looks like you makes it? And so like, I think that helped a ton. And then my uncle also, like, no college degree, was a cop, found a way to go become a board executive for this company in Georgia now, like from a golf game, like shook his hand, like had no education whatsoever, and has this job that most people, will spend 4 to 8 years in school doing. So I just had a lot of factors like coming together in a weird way that kind of gave me that push and gave me that understanding of knowing that like it could be possible, even though I had a lot of people tell me that, you need to stay in your lane, go offshore, go work at the paper mill, whatever, very small town. But yeah, the motorsport side of it, I think how it funneled out was, dude, I was always just in love with things that went fast. Like if it's going fast and it's like, it makes people uncomfortable, like I was drawn to that. And NASCAR did that in a huge way. Started going to Talladega when I was young. And so like for a long time, it was never like the primary in my life. Like it was something I enjoyed, but like, cause I also like to watch Anakin Skywalker on episode 1 of Star Wars going fast, you know? So it's just like, I think that that's probably how that rolled into things. And from there, like we just kind of like filtered out over the years a lot of different experience to spit out this person that I am.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. I love that. And, right. I want to go fast as well, to be real clear. And I love that
too. So it's, there's no breaks.
Right. All gas, no brakes, man. Well, and I love that what you said, like looking at the people around you, right? Looking at members of your family, people that were like, yeah, if they can go do it, then like, heck yeah, I'm going to go and pursue. And I think all of us probably, especially all of us that call ourselves like a traditional creative, would have that person, whether it's a family member, someone, a teacher, right? Someone in our life that believed in us, went out and did the thing ahead of us. And we're like, oh, shoot, I know them really well and they're kind of a mess. And if they can go do it, then like, heck yeah, I can go do that. And so I love that, man. Like, yeah, man, we talked a little bit about before we recorded, like just that drive, that push to like go and do something.
And sometimes as creatives, like we feel these pressures to like, we kind of feel like that square peg getting pushed into a round hole, right? Like you can't make money doing this or you can't do that. So we're being, for probably good intentions, I don't want to say people have bad intentions necessarily of motivating us or encouraging us in another direction, but at times like you just feel like you don't fit, right? And I think that there's these moments where we realize like, yeah, I don't fit. This isn't my path. I'm not going to fit in this hole, and I need to make that decision for myself. But I can see people in my life that, man, they didn't fit either, right? Like they didn't have the typical, like you said, 4 to 8 year degree and still are doing like something pretty sweet. And so it's so good to have those people, especially when you're hearing other messages kind of seep into your narrative a bit.
Yeah, no, I think that that's like the biggest thing, right? Like is that support system there, like however it shows itself. But like then too, like, I mean, I went through a period where I kind of forgot, like I forgot that was an option, because when you find yourself like with certain people in your life, and like if your parents really like aren't 100% supportive of like, what you decide to do in your life, and they freak out, then it's from a place of love, but it's also from a place of fear. And
for sure.
And I think that for me, like, that spoke so true to what you're saying, is like, because, I always knew that I liked to talk, and I always knew that I liked people, and I was, I have a lot of empathy, and I feel kind of this sense of connection. So I'm like, I get out, I drop out of college. I was going to college for business, I drop out, and then I go work at a Walmart distribution center in a freezer on a jack pallet. And I did that for 2 weeks, and I was like, fuck that, dude. And I'm sorry if I don't know, am I good to cost? Okay.
You're good.
You're good, man.
Yeah, I was just like, I can't do this. I was like, I'm not going to do this. And I was like, I had like a rental apartment, I had bills, I had all this stuff. And I'm like, if you're ever going to just jump, you're going to have to jump now. So I just straight up called, quit that job, and like went and found this straight commission door-to-door credit card sales job. And I didn't know how it was going to go. And my dad and my mom, they were asking, they're like, is this thing going to pay, around the same? And I'm like, oh yeah.
Sure. Right.
Yeah. So it's like, you go through things like that. And I did that for a while. And then like you realize that, okay, like you go from that step to like car sales, and then you get car sales and you have a little something coming every week or whatever. And you learn how to like find what it is that's setting you like ablaze, and you don't really know what that thing is at the moment or why that thing's happening. But like you find a way to adjust your lifestyle, for me anyway, with the financial compensation. Because I mean, I was never like loaded rich or whatever growing up. We were actually kind of like on the lower end. So it's like, and I come from a very, a town that's kind of like, and to be honest, it's more of a poverty paper mill type town. So It's I learned very young, like, how to do things with a low budget. And I think that, like, through all the fumbling that I did in my 20s to get to the point to where I finally, like, felt like I can do this, or I want to do this. I made a lot of people scratch their heads, because I was just like you're saying. Like, it's just, I'm not going to be forced into this thing. And if I'm in these situations where this resistance is being created, then eventually you start to question, why is that? And the more you dig in with that, the more you realize, like, maybe I should trust my instinct. And even though it's scary, like, just see what happens. And so that's kind of like the path I started taking after the insurance sales. I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. So
yeah, dude,
that's awesome.
Sure.
And it's so often, like, I think one thing that's important to point out is, like, man, so much of it is about the journey and not necessarily the destination, right? Like, I think so often we get so eager to, like, land our dream job or land our dream client or whatever, and we miss kind of like what we're doing in the present, and how those moments, even though they're hard or they may not be what you want, they're still stretching and growing us in ways that are only just going to help us down the road. Right. And I think those,
you just don't know that
so
while you're
beneficial.
going through it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're working in a Walmart distribution center, like you said, and you're just like, man, like, this isn't for me. But at the same time, like, that's still part of your journey and your story, right? Like, even those 2 weeks where you're like, I learned the only thing I learned was, like, this isn't what I want to do. And it's like, that's all right. That's all right, man. Like we don't, I think so often we feel so much pressure, so much, just whatever from outside sources that just discourage us and lead us down, like an unhealthy path that just creates so many more barriers and obstacles for us mentally. And it can drain you and burn you out real quick.
Yeah. And I think
I'll say it's just, sorry, that's that journey part of it, though. Like, the burnout and stuff, like, it's just all of it mixes together in this weird concoction that ends up becoming just the whole process of the flower you've been blooming into or whatever. I've been big on, like, flower analogies lately. I don't know.
Let's go.
Weird.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm in it, man. I love what you said too about, like, realizing that you could just go create stuff and you didn't have to have the best gear, the best equipment, right? Like, how to do stuff on a low budget. And I think as a kid growing up, watching some creatives ahead of me, right, watching people, it was always like, here's the camera you should go buy. Here's the video LUT you should use, right? Here's the editing style. Here's this thing. And it wasn't until I kind of like was doing some independent work that I was like, I don't have a ton of money to own equipment, but, like, a client hired me to make something and really learned that ability to, like, just go be scrappy. And, like, yeah, nice gear can sometimes make the job easier, but it also can be a barrier when you're so focused on the gear and the equipment and the tools that you use to create rather than, like, the object of your creativity. And I think I wish someone as a young creative had said to me sooner, like, just go make. It doesn't matter what the quality of the tool is. Like, use the tool to the best of your ability and focus on what you're creating, not necessarily how you're creating it. And I love that, like, part of your journey and story that has ultimately led you to, like, creating some really dope stuff, getting super involved in the world of racing, content creation, podcasts. Like, right, it led you to a place you probably never expected it to.
Dude, it's bananas, man. Because, like, you just talking about all that just kind of, like, brought me back to the guy that I started Garage Guys with. It brought me back to sitting in his driveway in his truck with a condenser mic on a stand plugged into an auxiliary port on an iPad.
Heck
like,
yeah.
That was the beginning of, like, where I was. Like, we started, dude, it's like it's you. And just before I get into a little bit of that, like, I just wanted to make sure that I say this, the equipment thing and the skill set, like, I never had that. what you're talking about, like the guy that I was doing Garage Guys with in the beginning, he had just started like watching Twitch at the time. And I'll never forget, like he was watching like Dr. Disrespect and he was watching Ninja when they were playing Fortnite. This was like 2017. Yeah. And, you know, I'm in a very different place in my life because I had a 2-year-old kid at that time. A lot of people don't know that. I'm married. And so and then I'm selling insurance still, but I know that like there's this part of me that like wants to get into radio. Like I wanted to be an XM. And it's like, unless you're like actively just putting out this content and you're editing it however you can and you're recording however you can, you never get started because like that's what happens to most people. And that's what he would say, the guy that I had started with. And I mean, like, you know, I haven't talked to the guy in years, and it's probably for the best. And I wish the guy well. It's just that it's, you know, doing what I'm doing now, I feel like it can be very different for some people that already kind of have their life and their mind kind of planned out of like, okay, this is how it's always going to be. And this is how it's always, you know, supposed to go, and nothing crazy or wild can happen. And so you just start going for it. And it's just like that initial embarrassment that you feel like when you're posting stuff like this about the people that you know in your small circles. Like it takes a while to bust out of that. And so it's just that's really the journey though, is because like you're not going to be the best in the beginning. It's that process of, you know, through time.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like I went to, I'll never forget like going the first time we started doing it. We had this very first rendition of the show. We were all in a fantasy football league, and I was listening to Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio every day when I was driving to work. And so I just started calling in the radio station just to like talk to them about it. And like, that's all that was on my mind. And so I remember going to hang out, you know, with my buddies. We used to like get together in his garage and we would drink beer. We would watch football. And this is back when I drank. I don't drink anymore. But that's what we would do. And so I just brought my laptop over there one day, downloaded Audacity online, and had like this little cheap Amazon mic for like $14. And I was like, let's just all sit in here and get drunk and talk about fantasy football. And they're like, that sounds great, you know?
Right.
And that's kind of how it started. And like, I had this love for music. So in the middle of the show, this is like, I never gave a shit about violating copyright. I was just like taking music and putting it in the middle of a podcast and uploading it because I wanted it to be like a radio show. I didn't even understand what a podcast was when I had started doing it. And because it was uploaded to SoundCloud. And then the guy was like, you need to put this on Apple Podcasts. So like I had to go figure that out. I figured that out. And then I was just like, oh, damn. And so the more I did it every week, you know, I would go find like odd jobs, or I would get a couple $100 aside. And then that was when I finally went to go buy my first Zoom H4n. I got my tax return. And instead of spending it on responsible things like any, you know, mid 20-year-old should, I went and bought a condenser mic and a Zoom recorder. So that was kind of the beginning of it all, sitting in a truck or a garage or wherever, staying up all through the night and then going to work the whole next day. That was life for years, man.
Got to spend money to make money.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude, I love that. I resonate with so much of that, of just that, like
the grit,
right? Like doing whatever I can to try to create things and get stuff out there. And you're right. Like even this podcast, like I've had this idea for a long time. Josh and I have talked about it before, and really like getting propelled into starting this business was kind of the thing that finally was like, all right, we should do it. But there are times I look back and I'm like, I wish I would have started that a long time ago, because I think it could have been awesome and had great conversations on the way. But we got it started, right? Like we jumped in, we got it going.
It happened when it was supposed to. Everything's on time. That's something that I've been like really living by over the last year. Like everything is always on your time. Everything is always working out for you. Mm-hmm. Everything is right on time. And the more I've framed my mind that way, the more I've realized that, okay, belief shapes like rock on, you know? And that's the beauty of it. So like, dude, I mean, you look gorgeous, dude. I mean, you both look gorgeous. I mean, it's good. You got the
Thanks,
plants,
bro.
the aesthetic is right.
Right.
I wish I was in my house kind of right now, because my house, I have like little Buddha statues and plants hanging around everywhere too. So, but this is, we're in the chase station. But I'm gonna have to get a little plant for the chase station.
I love it, man. Big plant guy. That was my like job loss crisis, was becoming a plant guy. I went to Costco and bought like 4 plants that were all 6 foot or taller, and came home, and my wife was like, "What are you doing? Like, what is this? Is
green thumb season, baby."
And it was like, it was February. Like, it was not like spring.
Oh man, that's a task.
I was like, man, Costco had them. They were on sale. I need something to do with my life right now, because I don't have a job. I'm trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing.
Someone's got to take care of these babies. You know what I mean?
Right?
Like, everybody wants to talk about animals. It's like plants are life too. So
right, and they keep growing, and it's great, man. Well, dude, Chase, talk to us about, right. So you get started, you get into that podcast world, and now you're full fledged like content producer, part of Dirty Mo Media, doing this podcast with Conor. Like, talk about kind of getting into that and that really becoming this thing that you were able to go after full time.
Yeah, man, it kind of like came. So like I was telling you guys, like garage guys is what a lot of people that are like in the NASCAR underground scene like knew me from. And like, so it started fantasy football, ended up transitioning, like COVID was like kind of the catalyst. So I was working with Rotoballer, just kind of trying to give like a quick like speed run. Like, we're working with Rotoballer, COVID hits, we get some notice on YouTube, start doing the podcast that way. Then I find out that because I write for Rotoballer, I can get media credentials, and then I go to a race, sleep in my car, and do all of the things that I never thought were possible, start networking. And then I wanted it. Like, I wanted it. And I feel like that's what separates a lot of people, is if you want it versus like, what are people like not willing to stand? Like, how far can they go? And so like that kind of kept happening. And then, you know, Dale Tanhart came into the mix. Love that kid to death. And him and I just clicked, and I knew that we had something, and we just kind of like rolled. And then opportunity came. That opportunity that got us to a couple of races right there opened more doors. And then it went on for a couple more years, worked with Hooters. And then probably in 2023, you know, we had gotten up to the point to where we were doing work with NASCAR, with NDM, before the Rubbin' Is Racing show. So we were kind of like the quick before of Rubbin' Is Racing. And it lasted for a couple months. I think we pissed off a couple people in the industry that didn't really like us too much. Yeah. You know, the old black ball can swing in, and you know, things can happen. So it got a little strangled, and I kept pushing, because that wasn't nothing new, right? And so finally, like towards the end of the year, like when Hooters, we kind of felt like Hooters was getting ready to scale back. And when that happened, I just realized, okay, I'm going to probably need to go find some other work. And around that time, AI had like started kind of surfacing, Chat GPT and all that. And I started playing with it, because I've been obsessed with science fiction since I was little. And I mean, I was like crying when Haley Joel Osment was a little robot child on the movie AI, and like his mama came back, the aliens, bro. Like, that tore me up. Still tears me up to this day. Yeah. And so like, I had this weird relationship with like technology and like artificial intelligence. I saw it differently, I feel like, than a lot of people do. And so I've always been fascinated. Now it's here, and I got deep into it, and I started building out things that I now realize I was doing, that people are just now realizing can be done. I was doing that in 2023, and it made it easier for me to realize, like, okay, well, maybe this is the end of the road for garage guys. Maybe this is where we need to stop, because like I'm becoming hyper focused and obsessed with working with these models, and working with like building my own chat bots on my computers through terminals, learn how to code. And I'm like just kind of turning into like this different person, took a job in New Orleans as doing like social media marketing. So like all my work that I had done with Garage Guys, it kind of helped me into that.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in that office for like 2 weeks, and I'm also like getting ready to spearhead a brand new AI division to try to start developing third party artificial intelligence tech for cars. And that's kind of like where I'm still at in the back of my mind, like, and where I want to go and where I'm moving towards now. But 2 weeks in, I'm sitting in my new desk, and I get a phone call from Conor. And it was around the time that Joey had, him and Joey had kind of like talked, and Joey was taking a step back because he's having a second kid. He had some other things he wanted to do. I never saw that coming. And it was funny because I wanted to I remember talking to Dale that year in 2023 early. I was like, we should really look to move into IndyCar because I think that we're going to see it pop off in like 2 years.
Yeah.
And so, like, I've always had that intuition, and that's just something I don't question. It's just something that I feel like I've been born with, and like I just trust that pull. Yep. And so, like, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to say no to this opportunity. And so I took it, and we kind of just started rolling last year. And like, I started slowly realizing like that I just had like this insane belief that what I knew was true. And now I'm here in this space helping to try to build up IndyCar. And now here we are with Joseph Newgarden, Pato, and Alex Blow commercials on the Super Bowl. Yep. So it's like, it just, I stopped questioning why things fall into place, because it's like you set the intention and you become that person naturally that you're supposed to be, that allows you to fit into these areas. And I think that that's how it works. And I still don't really know, but I just know that the more that I am becoming in tune with myself as a person, the more natural the world around me is unfolding in ways that I personally wanted to, I guess.
Yeah. Man, that's really good. There's a lot there. I think the two things for me that like I wanted to point out from what you were just saying was like, one, there's so much to be said about just the want and the desire and the grit, right? Like to go after something. But two, and sometimes people can take this as like a negative, but I think there's so much beauty in this like ignorance that we have, right? Like when paired with like this grit and this desire, it's like I'm just gonna say the thing because I don't even know like if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Whatever consequences come from that, like who knows if
it's
I'm
play,
offending anybody,
man. It's straight play.
Right. Yeah. And it's this kind of this thing that like, I think motivates us as people that like want to go after something, because you're like, man, I see the beautiful thing out there. I want to go after it. I know nothing, if anything, about it, but that also spurs me to learn. It spurs me to connect with the community, with the people, ask the dumb questions, ask new questions, bring new ideas to the table. Like there's just so much beauty in this like ignorance that oftentimes we can look at and be super intimidated. Like, I don't know the thing to ask. I don't know if it's
don't do that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. And like once you can build that self-confidence in yourself, knowing like, hey, I see something here. I'm okay enough to say like, I know nothing about it, but I see enough here to think I want to be a part of it, or I at least have something to say about it. So like, how do I become a part of this community? How do I build this and take it even further? So that's just awesome. I love that part about what you were sharing there.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I love too the whole idea around just getting after it and like taking every open door, right? There are so many things in what you've talked about that I think as creatives we're sometimes like, I don't know if this is the opportunity I should take, if I should go to this event. And like you went to a race and slept in your car, like you made it happen. And I think for a lot of people, it's like, well, it's going to cost me a lot, or it's going to be hard for me to get to the track, or like go pick up credentials and do this and figure all that out. And like, without doing those things, I think we miss out on so many opportunities that can ultimately like shape the person we're becoming, but also our career, like what we get to do and what we get to create and who we get to create alongside. I think so much what you've talked about is about relationship. It's about the people that you've met, right? It's about getting a media credential and hanging out and just introducing yourself to people. Networking. Yeah. I know creatives are like, oh, networking is the worst. I hate that. It's literally just having conversations with the people that you like meet and asking them how their day is going and talking about the things that like you're both interested in. It's not this like weird corporate, hey, we got to be on LinkedIn and connect with each other business.
That's how the majority of the world sees it, though. And I think that
right.
until like you fully embrace the fact of like trusting your intuition. I mean, like this is a show about creativity, and so like that it's an art in itself, because like I'm drawn to certain people and I don't know why sometimes, but I don't question it. You know what I mean? Like if I feel like I'm in a big public place and I'm around certain people that I don't know, but something's telling me to go over there, like I learned through time to trust that natural instinct that first comes, because that right there is what truly, when I look back, I can't think of a time when I really had that feeling and I moved towards it, because there's been a lot of times where I didn't have that feeling and I moved towards that thing and it didn't really work out. But every time that I've truly had that feeling and I've moved in that direction and I was weighing it out and it was kind of scary, didn't feel right, it always worked. And so that, if anybody can take anything away from it, it's like let networking be natural. Let networking, let the internal force guide that to you, to who you need to network with. Don't get so worried about the why. And don't be afraid to be weird and go up to people and be like, I don't know why I wanted to come talk to you, but something made me feel like I need to come. I've done that before. And some people will just be like, who the fuck are you? And then some people will be like, what? Okay, cool. You know, like you always get, it's like, you always get kind of caught off guard, but And I don't know if maybe that's just from that place like you were talking about, Josh, like ignorance, but it's like, if that's what it is, then I mean, I'm just going to keep doing it, because it's just who I am, you know?
Yeah, dude, for sure. Well, Chase, let's talk about like the world that we talked about, the world of creativity. Where do you see creativity, content creation, all the things that you're involved in, especially in this, like this space of motorsport, right? Like this is this niche that you're in. Josh and I are huge racing fans, like big IndyCar fans. And so where do you see the world of like creativity, content creation going in the world of motorsport, and maybe just in a broader sense as well?
Yeah, I think it's in a really good place right now. There are a lot of people that were not long-time race fans that were coming into the content game through the whole F1 thing, the Drive to Survive. You know, there's some guys that were just into like film and acting, kind of like me, like deep down. I mean, I was in plays in high school. I was in like drama club and stuff. So it's like acting and comedy and all that stuff has always been like a big part of my life. And to see more guys coming into motorsports and like having that kind of energy, like that's always like what I felt like it needed. Because when you looked at where motorsports content was in like 2010, 2015, it was none. It was just kind of like the same like corporate chopped stuff. And so it's strange now looking back in it, because it was just like I always had that vision of like, well, I know like my style is weird and raw, and I want to find a way to incorporate that. Just kind of like it ends up becoming like this acid trip of racing content in a way. And so I see now where we have a lot more NASCAR people, we have the F1 people, and you know, the IndyCar scene, I feel like I'm just kind of like tiptoeing into it for the first time, because I realized now that it just hasn't really been carved out yet.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm just like taking the I love to treat it like pottery, or like a canvas, you know. And there's something that's so special about the ground floor, like getting in the beginning, because you get to kind of like shape it and then see what kind of direction it moves. Like you can find the people that just kind of like think, okay, well, this works, so I'm just going to do that. And then you find the people that are really trailblazing, that are just coming in with their own perspective, and I respect the hell out of that, because like people get scared of sharing their ideas. People get scared of sharing their mind. It's like, you're the only person with this. Share it. Who cares what's taken? Like I've always had that approach of like in motorsports, right? Like there's a lot of people. We're all like trying to, you know, like irrespectively compete. And I'm a competitive guy, don't get me wrong, but I also like, you know, murdered my ego eating shrooms when I was 2017. So like, you know, it's a really weird spot that I find myself in, but it allows me to kind of see this stuff where it's like, you know that it's going to keep stacking, but how that captures more than just motorsports fans is entirely dependent upon how outside of motorsports you can get with it and then pull it back to there. So I think that we're definitely have seen more of that. We've seen, you know, you definitely have your cookie cutter stuff out there. There's nothing wrong with it. It gets people to racing. And a lot of people feel like whatever's trending is what they need to like for some reason. Right. And I hate that that's a very wide, you know, view, because it does make it to where like people like myself and people that are very, very just abstract, like can have a tougher time. But I think that we're entering this space now where we're coming kind of out of this, like, don't really care, minimalist style content culture. And we're about to really start moving back more into like the art and the try, because AI is going to make things so easy for people that like things are going to start to kind of become meaningless with content. And so the more that you can differentiate yourself, the more that you can show how abstract you are and your mind works, I feel like the more people in motorsports that decide to come from the outside, the better. We need more people that have never watched it their whole life, because there's these weird attachments that come with those things. And so me being a casual, I feel like it allowed me to kind of know enough about, you know, the history of NASCAR, and then learning about IndyCar from 2021. You know, I'm still learning the history of it, but I don't get too caught up in it, because it's like I'm trying to pull from the ether at all times. And it's like, and so I'm trying to keep that funnel open. And if I get something that doesn't make any sense, I'm rolling with it regardless. And I've had a lot of those things. Sometimes they land, sometimes they don't. But I think that we're about to start seeing a lot more people trying to express themselves in the sports space as a whole, but motorsports in general. I still truly, which is why I put futurist on my bio, like mechanics and biology and mechanical, AI, human, whatever. Racing is it, because that's how we continue to push limits in the future. Because I mean, we're not going to be seeing dudes in the NFL wearing exoskeletons anytime soon that can like rocket blast into the end zone. You know? So the excitement and the things that we aren't able to do outside of our own body are going to manifest in racing over the next 20 years. And so the more people coming in now that have those ideas, it's going to kind of warp it to where we can easily see motorsports take that popularity hype from the NFL. Because go look at NFL content, go look at influencers in sports, look how they are doing things right now. It's not all about the sports and the history. It's more about who they are as people and what's funny to them. And they're just slinging it. out there,
Yep.
and people are loving it. So we got to get out of the cookie cutter stuff, and I think that we're finally there. Like, we're finally moving into that.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think, like, with that and kind of what you're saying too, is like just having that willingness to fail. Like that's gotta be accepted. And, because like how many times do we fail and like learn such good, a better way
everything.
Right. Yeah. Right. And we have to create just an environment where it feels safe for us to fail and still, like, feel like we have our jobs, or still feel like we're, whatever the case might be, whatever you're in. And, because those are the moments we grow the most. I mean, you think of, like, you look at baseball players, the best hitters bat 300. So they're failing more than they're even succeeding. But
exactly
at the same time, like, you still got to shoot that shot. You still got to, put that content out there, and you may feel like it's a good idea and it doesn't land. It's like, okay, let's regroup. Let's learn from this. Let's
some of my favorite content. I hate to interrupt you. I've just got to say,
no, you're
some
good,
of my
man.
favorite content is stuff that maybe got under 50 likes, and I'll still watch it all the time. Like, because in my mind, it's like 300K.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
right,
I just don't. You don't care, because it's like Rick Rubin is somebody that I align with in like a lot of weird, strange ways. Like, we got the same birthday. I feel like I have the same like mentality. Like, I don't know. I even got as far as wondering. I'm just like, is this like being this dude like the same guy in a parallel universe almost? Because I'm like, I feel like so connected to that dude. And I read his book, I think it's The Creative Act, The Art of Being. And that is a book that I recommend to you guys, that I recommend to anybody that's getting in the creative industry on any front. I mean, any front: art, music, content creation, whatever. Like he talks about it. It's like, you're making things for you. Like, and that's how I've always approached it, even before I realized that. Like, my content, I make it because like it's fun, and I make it because like it's stuff that I just want to see in reality. So the more you just do that, you'll have some things hit, you have some things miss. But Michael Jordan said it best: why would I think about missing a shot before I've even taken it? And I love the quote, fear is an illusion, because it is.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, bro. I mean, books right here. Keep it
Look
on my
at
desk.
You, dog. Yeah.
Literally every day. It's like a constant. Hey, go back and check that out, right? Grab a couple minutes, because there is so much good inspiration and content in that thing. Well, Chase, dude, I could spend hours talking to you about all this. We could talk about the reality that like IndyCar realized the death and like the miss and the fail, and is finally doing something about it in the world of content creation. And that's, I think, been fueled by people like you, people coming in and saying, hey, there's something incredible here, and like, y'all aren't doing enough to push this. And so like, we could spend hours talking about that, but I do want to ask you before you go, what's next for you, man? Like, what's on the horizon? What's coming up? What's something you're working on, something you're super pumped about, that's coming up for you?
Well, obviously St. Pete in a couple of weeks. I'll be at the opener for IndyCar. I'm going to be at a lot of IndyCar races this year, which is awesome.
Sweet.
And obviously everyone now, I think, has heard like about the GridRival partnership. So, I'm partnered with GridRival again for 2025, and they also were just able to, they basically became the official game of IndyCar. So doing big things over there, trying to really get that fantasy, the fantasy game built up to be all that it can be. So I'll be doing some stuff with IndyCar. You might see me on some IndyCar social channels here in this season, talking about picks and guys that I like for the races, using the GridRival app. But just going to races. And I'm working on a lot of different things in the background right now. Obviously, I'm still very heavily involved in AI and working, building out, just pushing the limits of what's possible, I guess. And so that right there is something that I'm going to be continuing to do a lot of, and however that manifests it will come when it's ready. But I guess the best answer I can give is I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing every day and take it one day at a time, and try to be as present as possible and enjoy it.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for joining us. We will definitely see you at the track. Josh and I are going to head to several races this season as well. So we'll definitely see you, get to hang out. Would be awesome. And thank you so much for joining us, dude. Thanks for sharing all this wisdom. I think it's going to inspire a ton of people just to get out and like go create something. It doesn't matter the budget. It doesn't matter the tool. Like just follow your gut, follow that intuition, and go create something. And that's what this podcast is all about. We want this to be a reminder that you were made to create incredible things that can make the world a better place. And so thank you for joining us in that conversation. And we'd love for you to continue to follow the Creative Belief podcast. Go subscribe to the show, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. You can also follow what our brand design studio is doing on Instagram. That's at Creator Studio. That's at CRTR Studio. We'll be sure to link to all of Chase's social, how you can connect with him, Speed Street, all the stuff that he's working on in the show notes. So check all that out. Give them a follow. Go listen to their podcast, his podcast, all that fun. Chase, bro, thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you guys. I love everything that you both are doing here with this program. The creativity part is it's where all of this spawned from. So it's almost like the beauty of life itself. So I love that you guys are promoting that, putting that up. More people should definitely do that. And thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thanks, bro. We'll talk to you soon.
For sure.